This is the first introduction, anyways, in the entire law course. The title of this unit is Our Government, because the first unit of this course is almost a little civics unit, just to remind all of the students about the branches of government and also voting rights we're going to talk about and things like that, just to set us up for what we need for the rest of the course. But we do need to start out talking about laws. Okay, and in particular, we're going to talk about the differences between criminal and civil law. We're going to talk about where these laws come from. We're going to talk about the difference between trial and appeal courts, just kind of a broad introduction. Some of these topics we'll hit again throughout the course just to make sure that we have a little bit more depth. But when we discuss the concept of law in general, it's basically a set of rules created and enforced by the government that regulate the behavior of people in a society. That's the whole point of law, is just to basically control behavior. And the government creates them. When we look at the branch of government that creates them, we look towards the legislative branch. At the federal level, that would be Congress, the House of Representatives, and the Senate. In the state level, that would be the state legislature creates laws. And then at the local level even, we have a city council or a township or borough council that creates laws that govern the behavior of its people. And when we talk about the enforcement of law, it often comes down to the executive branch of a government. So we could have the president's the head of the federal branch, but obviously the president isn't enforcing laws him or herself. It is, arms of the executive branch, like the FBI. When you get into a state level, you talk about the state police. Local levels, you get into the local police, like the City of Greensburg Police and other municipalities. And so that's what we're talking about with law. Rules created and enforced by the government to regulate the behavior of people in a society. Now, there are three elements to a good law. And not every law that's ever been written has been a good law, but the first element to a good law is that it's clear and understandable. And sometimes this can be an issue. Some laws can be confusing, and maybe the higher up in government you go, in terms of federal government, for example, the more confusing it can be. But laws should be clear and understandable. People should understand when they are breaking the law, when they are not breaking the law. Secondly, a good law is consistently enforced. Okay, and so that means that if one person is charged with vehicular homicide, let's say, because they kill someone while driving under the influence of alcohol, then anybody else who does the same thing will be charged in a similar fashion. Now, we could think of laws that aren't necessarily consistently enforced. Traffic law isn't consistently enforced. That's something that we just as a society are able to deal with. But the whole idea is that obviously not every person who speeds is given a ticket. And in fact, it's often pretty random, depending on if a police officer's there or not there, or if they choose to pull over someone who's driving faster than a second car, even though the second car is also speeding. Okay, but in general, the important laws, when we get into what we call misdemeanors and felonies, should be consistently enforced. And then finally, a good law does not discriminate. And, we obviously have a history where we have laws that discriminate. And when you look back in the Civil Rights era, Jim Crow laws that separated the races in terms of restrooms and movie theaters and schools and restaurants, that was an entire grouping of laws that discriminate and therefore really can't be considered good laws. And so, that's it. That's the basics, the introduction. Law, the rules created and enforced by government that regulate the behavior of people in a society. A good law is clear and understandable, consistently enforced, and does not discriminate. Okay, and the next step is we're going to take a look at some laws and, decide where do they come from. And we're actually going to go through a little ridiculous law activity where you're going to decide if a law is real or fake. But regardless, you'll see that they all have kind of a justification, and we understand where they could come from, even though they aren't necessarily real.